Yeah.
I think that's how our podcast started last time, was with the car going, and I didn't recognize the sound.
Oh, that's funny.
But
I kind of dig the, I've been digging the whole vibe on YouTube. It's different, which, I mean, I'm not big on different things, but I'm all for putting our faces out there, so.
whatever, dude.
Dude, I know I just sent you a text, but I'll tell everybody here about my text that I sent you. Had to go to pick up my wife today at her work and had an opportunity to talk to the head of orthopedics at my wife's work, which she works at Walter Reed Hospital. We won't talk about the doctor's name or anything else like that, but I will tell you this, is that I really wanted to get down to exactly what this Liz Frank injury is. As somebody that's torn a lot of ligaments and different things in my body, this was a new one for me. It's kind of like one of those injuries where you're like, okay, just from listening to people talk about it on ESPN and stuff like that, you know that it stabilizes the foot. But as far as important as it is, I was kind of shocked because, back in the 60s and 70s, this would be considered a severe, even 80s and 90s, that this would be considered a severe sprain of the ankle. And cost a lot of people their careers because of this instability that would create. But man, after talking to the doctor, I was the surgeon, I was pretty excited about the possibility that Chet could just come back at full health, but I mean, we're talking 110%. He said that the biggest thing with these injuries is that the players that get it, and he reiterated that when I told him that Chet Holmgren from the Oklahoma City Thunder did this, he said, wait, I thought the Oklahoma City Thunder's a basketball team. And I was like, they are, and he's like, well, this is a football injury. He's like, you see this, in football. I don't know the last time I've heard about this happening, in basketball. He said, I'm sure it does, but he's like, I haven't heard of it in a very long time. So again, that's a freak accident, something that we're excited about more so than something that's going to linger, like a fasciitis is going to linger and different things like that. Everything that I can see, you're talking about 6 to 8 weeks for non-bearing weight after surgery, another 4 to 8 weeks to wean off of that boots, and then another 10 to 14 weeks on stiff soles. This is going to be a very slow process. Obviously, we're talking about right there, that's a good 6 months, 5 months. But he did say that if he is an incredible healer, and this is everybody to each his own, right? But if he's an incredible healer, he said that he would not be surprised if he was 100+% by month 4. So you're looking at Christmas time, around that time, that he could be back. But he said that obviously, once I told him that Chet was the second pick in the draft, he said, the Oklahoma City Thunder, from what he can understand, he's not a sports expert by any stretch of the imagination, but he's like, why would you rush this injury back? He's like, if he can get back in 4 months, then you know what? Then great for him. But even then, it's going to take him a month to get up to game speed. So he's like, you shouldn't rush this young man back. So he said these injuries heal really well for NFL players. He's like, most NFL players that get this injury early in their career are 110% back and ready to go by the next year. He said that his long, lanky limbs that, I explained to him shouldn't have any issues at all. His biggest thing that he's going to be doing during the recovery time is just moving his toes and strengthening his muscles between his toes. And that is going to be the key to being able for him to get back to on the floor. He went and showed me a video. It was about a 3 to 5 minute video of things you can do to strengthen your toes. It was pretty cool, but I mean, nothing like spectacular at all.
But one of those things that I heard people talking about was picking up marbles with your toes.
Yes. He did have that on there a second. He was showing how to rotate the marbles and all that stuff. Like, I mean, it's very fascinating.
So, I want to come back to what you're saying because I cut you off. I know that. But
no, you're good.
That particular exercise, if you're talking about something I mentioned last episode, which was you know, a lot of times when people have like ligament damage in their knees and then they get it repaired, they'll say it's stronger than it was, which is a good sign because it did break down. But you could see why a player like Chet, who 7'1", 7'3", whatever, he's obviously got like really long feet, and because of that, like those muscles, if he gets them really strong through this process, which seems like it's a critical part of recovery, like it could be something that's like a really good foundation for the rest of his career.
Yeah, it really can. I mean, again, this physical therapy is non-complicated. You know, this is not like complicated shit he's going to go through. If this was like a rotator cuff or something else like that, or Tommy John's, ACL, MCL, something like that, that's a little bit more complicated for the recovery time, then, you know, I would be sitting here looking at it at a different angle. But the way the doctor talked about it, you know, like, you know how you hear a doctor talk about serious injuries and they're like, oh man, you got to be careful about these injuries. Ooh, yeah, you know, don't want that injury. That will ruin your career. The way he talked about this injury was like, yeah, man, he's going to be out 4 to 6 months. He'll be back, and he'll be back really strong. He's the type of, you know, athlete that seems like heals really quickly. So again, it's just encouraging. Like, it's one thing to hear from ESPN people and hear about, you know, their people talk on there like, oh yeah, this is this, and you don't have to worry about this, and the type of recovery is like this. But to hear it from a surgeon that does these type of surgeries and that sees this, and you know, he went to or he worked at West Point for a while, which in the military, that's where the military academy is at. And so he was there doing surgeries on young men and women.
A lot of football injuries, sports injuries.
Whatever the NCAA has there in at West Point. So, you know, again, he's very familiar with these surgeries. So, again, I get excited in the aspect of I was really down and out the last couple of days because, I mean, it's Chet. I mean, he's so much to this team and never has worn the jersey in the game before, but he already means so much to this team. And I was just like, this is going to suck, man. I can't believe we're not going to be able to see Chet this year play. And, you know, when I was able to go and get my wife and take her to lunch and take my boy with me and have a conversation like that, like, to me, like, that changed it all. Like, I was like, okay, I don't need to be stressed about this anymore, you know? Like, yeah, he's going to get better. Things going to be all right. And, you know, everything the doctor said, man, it's true. I mean, like, this is not something to be worried about. If this was something else, then yeah, like maybe if it was ACL, you'd be concerned that he lost a couple inches on his vertical. If this is MCL, you'd be, you know, concerned you'd be a little bit slower. I mean, there's so many things like that. But I literally asked him, I was like, what is the biggest thing coming back for an NFL player on this injury? And you know what he said? NFL players and players in general aren't patient enough coming back. He's like, this is an injury that needs patience. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, that's completely non-complicated, you know? Like, it makes me feel like this is a better situation than I realized.
Well, I think it's an important factor because the first reaction the Thunder had was, we're going to give you enough time and then some. And there's going to be no pressure. That's what we talked about before the draft, during the draft, after the draft. Like, the reason that Josh Giddy and Chet and Shea and Dort, all these people, they understand the value of being with the Thunder is this. Like, so many teams ask players to rush back from injury, to play hurt. They're in pursuit of a playoff run, a championship or whatever. Like, and we have seen us as the Thunder shut down some of our best players, like Russ when he tore some meniscus. And there was talk immediately, as soon as he tore that meniscus,
you're right,
that he could play through it. Oh, well, they could go in and do a quick surgery, right? Just shave it. Remember this conversation, Dave?
Oh,
they
yeah,
were like, maybe we could shave Russ's meniscus and have him out there playing in 2 to 3 days.
Broke his cheek. The same thing, bro.
Right, but they were like, look, they let him come back from his broken cheek after surgery like the very next day. And I was at that game, bro. He had a mask on his face, and he went for, I think, 48 points and a triple-double.
Yep.
All right? And he dunked so hard that he smashed the mask on his face against the Sixers. It was a crazy game, but my point is, like, the Thunder understand the difference between a facial break and cartilage in your knee being torn. Like, one of them will change your athleticism after you're past your prime, or even during your prime. And like, we didn't play around with that, and we always play the safe end. And that meant that championship window, bro, that was shortened.
Oh yeah,
but that was worth it. It was worth it to do the right thing for Russ. And here we are. This isn't. We're not talking championship window, but we're talking about the longevity of really someone that we hope, when they do the NBA at 100, will be on that team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you have to make the right decisions for the next 20 years, because that's how long we hope he can play in the NBA. Because, like, let's face it, if people are careful, he has that type of ability, because he's got game that if he's 40, they can't stop unless he can't walk anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you look at somebody that it's low-hanging fruit. We'll just talk about LeBron. He was going up against LeBron, so might as well talk about it.
Right.
I mean, look at LeBron is my age. I mean, he's 38 years old, knocking on the door at 39, playing at the level he is. And if I'm Chet, I'm like, goal number one, I want to be like LeBron. I want to be 38 years old, and I just signed a 2-year contract to make me be 41 years old when I'm done with that contract. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my goal. You know, that's what I'm looking at Chet. And, you know, LeBron has gone through his career where nothing major in his life or in his career has happened that's caused him to be out. I know he's had surgeries in the off season and different things like that. But, you know, we watched him a couple of years ago struggle through the season, I guess.
I think it was last year, right, where they didn't make the playoffs. And
yeah, he struggled that year. But there was one year that I think he was gone for like 50 or 60 games or something like that. But again, it happens through a player's career. And, you know, the fact is with Chet, sometimes when an injury like this happens early in a player's career, it actually saves them from another major injury. And it's simple, because they start wearing, because it scares you. You start wearing protective, knee braces. Man, I knew this guy that when I played, and he played in college, right? And we always joked around and we always laughed about those guys that wore the knee braces, okay? And one day I was playing at Mid-America, playing pickup there on a weekend, or I forget what day it was, but I'm playing pickup there, and he's there and he's wearing knee braces. I'm like, oh man, wearing knee braces. And he's like, looks at me and goes, it just took one time. One time me landing on my knee really, really bad. And he's like, I'll never do that again. And it's true, man. Like, sometimes you get injured slightly, and you're like, screw that, I'm not doing that again, and I'm hoping that's what's happening, because I've looked at this play with LeBron, like, I don't know, 60, 70 times now?
I know, I've watched so much.
Every time I look at it, I'm always looking at his ankle. He already has an ankle brace on it.
Yeah.
Like, something wasn't right already. So, and he might have been cleared by the doctors, or he might have just had a tweak. I mean, here's the thing. This is a great mental thing for him. I'm not feeling 100%. I'm not going to go balls to the wall. I'm not going to play. Like, this is what has to happen. I mean, his dad talked about his second contract, right, a lot in his interview that he gave. The second contract is that goal. If that's the goal, then some of these things in the summertime have just got to go, and you're going to see a lot of athletes after this type of injury right here. They're going to be like, you know what, I'm good. I'm good playing on an overturn, elite or whatever. Pro-Am is in Seattle. I'm good on that, because look at what happened to Chet. And, luckily for Chet, this is his first year. If this was his last year of his contract year, I mean, he'd be talking at maybe a max of, $10, 11, $12 million a year at this point, because not a lot of teams are going to go out of their way to sign a player like that. So this is a great learning opportunity on a year that for us was unwritten yet. Is still unwritten of what could happen, because I'm not putting it past this team not to make the playoffs. Shea's too good. Dort's really great. You've got Giddy, who I feel like is going to be one of those players that it's just going to pack the stadium, because he's so brilliant. I mean, some people call him Pistol Pete, some people call him Magic Johnson, some people call him this, some people call him that. The point is, there hasn't been a player of his caliber in a very, very long time. And if you're comparing him to the greatest point guards of all time already, prior to the 1990s, then man, or 2000s, then I'm telling you right now, he's great. He's special, and people are going to take note of him. So Josh Giddy is going to be one of those guys that comes out of his shell this year, and he's going to make everybody else better. So when you say, there's no way we're going to win, 25 games, and I can't help but laugh when I see people say that we're going to win 18 games, because even without Chet, this team is a 35 win team. We've got a deep bench, great defense, an offensive scheme that works really, really well. Yeah, we don't always put up 110 points a game, but we don't need to with our defense. We've got a star player that can put up 25-plus points every single night. We've got a great defender, a top 5 defender in the league. And then we've got maybe one of the greatest young point guards of this generation. And we can say maybe one of the greatest is because anybody that has as many triple-doubles and as little games as he's played before he turned 20, man, is surely special, and is going to be something that we're all going to look back and just be appreciative that we've had this time watching him.
I wanted to talk a little bit about what your buddy Blake, or our buddy Blake, said. Look, the other guys are going to get opportunities they wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't for this. And we don't want to be like, there's a bright side. But you know what? People are going to have to step up. And if they do step up, then there will be a bright side. And one of those guys who I think is going to be relied on more than he would have from the offensive perspective is Josh Giddey. I think he's going to have to be willing to take a lot of shots that he wouldn't have necessarily taken. And I think because of our new coach that we brought in from the San Antonio Spurs, the team is going to continue to emphasize that Josh continued to shoot no matter what. And if he does that, there could be a time in the season, it might start out a little bit ugly. But we've seen it before at different levels. When a shooter commits to shooting and they have good mechanics, they will come around.
Yeah.
But I don't know that Josh would have made that commitment to shoot the ball when he was open if Chet was out there on a consistent basis, unless it was late in the shot clock or something. I feel like without Chet, Josh could become a better player than he would have been. Not that, Josh will always be a better player with Chet, right? But Josh needs a little bit more time by himself to become the best player he can be, so that the combination maximizes their overall potential.
Man, you're right, and it's making me think about this starting lineup. I mean, it is. It's inevitably making me wonder, how is this going to shift around? And we could be talking about something really simple, like Derek Favors just moves into the starting position, And you got Derek Favors, JRE, and then our 3 guards. That's cool. I mean, again, same thing could happen with Moose. You could slide him in there. But I feel like this is the moment we're going to see our young players play more, especially in that power forward position. And I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing a combination of JRE and J. Will really eating up those minutes. I look at Favors and I look at Mike Muscala and I say, man, where do I see these guys fitting as leaders on this team and getting minutes? And again, this is going to all depend on who we're playing, I think. And we're still not 100% Derek Favors is going to be on this team. But I think it makes sense that he stays on the team now if we're trying to push for the playoffs. And as far as, that starting lineup or that closing 5, man, you got to go with JDub and Moose, and you got to let those guys spread the fucking floor and just let the ball fly. Moose is one of the most effective shooters in the league, big men in the league, and J-Dub is just a spectacular guy that, obviously I think very highly of. So, again, to me, this is going to be interesting how the closing team is going to work out. And we've said since day one that center by committee, but, it's going to be center and power forward by committee. There's no one person that's going to be eating up, 30 minutes a game now that Chet's gone.
So if I were to ask you a week ago, or I don't really remember exactly when the injury happened, but right before the injury, or right before a few days ago when we found out about the injury, if I had said, what combination in the pick and roll are you most excited about seeing? I guarantee Chet would have been one of the 2 players.
Chet and Shea. We discussed that a little bit before. So
now, I'm going to ask you again, with Chet out, who?
I think that JRE and Giddy connection is going to be elite. It's going to be special.
It's got to be one of the rookies, though.
But man, I gotta say, dude, I'm really leaning towards Jay Will and Shea, man.
Okay.
You know why?
Yeah.
There's two reasons. First of all, is Jay Will is the master at taking charges. So I can imagine guys coming off that screen, barely touching Jay Will, he's going down, right? Mm-hmm. That creates two things. One, it creates a foul, or number two, it creates the mismatch even worse because now Jay Will's taking out the guard out of the play. You know,
mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, Shea, Jay Will, it's going to be the combination that everybody's going to be talking about. And we could go with JRE, and that's simple. But to me, it's that Jay Will's special. There's something that's elite about Jay Will's game that I know we haven't seen him play professional ball, so I got to be careful how I massage his cock here. But I really feel like he's one of those guys that we really connect to on a high level, just because the way he hustles, the way he sets screens, his what I call the ghost screens, where he's acting like he's going to set a screen and catches the guy and just fades past him. Like, he does so many things at a high level that I'm excited for the Jay Will show to break out.
Yeah, I'm thinking for me, it's Josh Giddy and JDub. I feel like it's a bit unconventional because
that'd be fun.
But they both can play. I think they can both play on the role part.
Yeah.
I think they both can use their size on a smaller player. They can also effectively pop at a really high level. We're hoping Giddy can over time, but I think it'll create different mismatches, and I don't know. It's just something I think will be fun. Obviously,
how about that Poku Jang connection, man? We know we're going to see that this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be exciting. I think
Poku sees the floor. Like, listen, there's very few guys that can throw a half-court pass for an alley-oop.
Yeah.
Poku's one of those guys.
Yeah.
There's probably, two guys in the NBA that are 7 foot that probably can make that pass, and one of his countrymen. So, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
He's got that spaz when it comes, or spaz. He got that, whatever that word is, that special factor when it comes to long passes. So, man, I'm telling you, and Jang gets up that floor really well. There's going to be some spectacular fast breaks with Poku and Jang, and it sounds so strange saying, but I mean, again, we're looking in this position, Mark, where we have so many young guys. We have 7 guys that are going to play this year. 9 guys that are going to play this year that are rookies or second years. Think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those guys are going to demand a lot of time. And then you've got the 3 guys, or the 2 guys, Poku, Shea. You've got Dort, and then you got a bunch of guys off the bench that, 9 to 16 spot that are, all these veteran older guys that have much more years experience. But man, this team is so young and it's so inexperienced. And I think that's why I get excited about it, is because how many times have we seen a team that everybody didn't expect their rookies to be good, like Memphis, that all of a sudden their rookies look so fucking amazing that you're like, holy shit. I mean, I'm telling you, how come when Ja plays the way he does, right? Everybody's like top 4 teams. But everybody that has seen Shea's game has said, okay, Shea, he's as good, right? They compare him of sorts to Ja, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the crazy thing is that here is Ja leading his team, quote unquote, to the finals or to the playoffs, and you're sitting there saying, how is Oklahoma City worse when I feel like we have a deeper bench, we have a way deeper player ability than Memphis, and then you look at Shea, who could be throwing up insane numbers. Man, listen, I know we can say this player is better than this player from Memphis or whatever, but the reality is that if you look at the team and you break down who the players are, and you said this player, that player, you would end up with 10 guys from Oklahoma City and 5 guys from Memphis, and that's how it would break down, and that's it. There's very few guys that I've seen that really match up to us as far as depth goes. You know, like I watch a team like the Lakers or other teams that really struggle this year because of the depth. And then you look at a team like the Clippers, who are incredibly deep, right? And then they have the 2-star players, and you're like, okay, that's a championship caliber team. You know, we're obviously not a championship caliber team right now, but we're still a fucking playoff team, and that's basic.
Yeah, and we got some opportunity to prove it, because like we've been saying that if we had been able to stay healthy, we would have been a lot closer to 30 wins than we were. Like, but let's look at it. Like, if we look back and we're like, hey, this team can't get it done, somewhat a bit like what we saw the last 2 seasons, where right around the All-Star break, you're kind of evaluating it, and it's obvious that a playoff push would take everything we had, including maybe a trade, right? And we weren't going to do something like that. Yeah. So we give some of the vets an opportunity to sit down, and then we find ourselves, just barely getting out of the teens and wins, right? And that type of situation could happen again. It could be another long year, and we were always basically one injury. Like, if Shea got hurt, that was probably going to be the case. Mm-hmm. But now with Chet out, really, if Dor or Giddy get hurt, we'll be right back in the same spot. And Shea, obviously, it's always applies to him. So I feel like we've gotten closer to maybe being back in the lottery and looking at it and saying, hey, we're hoping to be tied with everybody else with a 12.5% chance for the number 1 overall pick. But if it does or if it doesn't happen, that's irrelevant. Like, right now, our job as fans is to support the team and understand that they're coming out trying to compete for something, and as long as that's what they're going for, we're going to support them in that effort.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we've been since day one. Like, I feel like every 10 podcasts we bring this up, but the reality is that we started this podcast because of the negativity. We started this podcast because we couldn't handle hearing other podcasts that are supposed to be supporting Oklahoma City cheer for losses. And, we've seen it in the last few days. That, like, so-and-so twisted ankle, exclamation mark, or Chet, twisted ankle, exclamation mark, maybe we get a top pick now. Like this is the type of shit that really just eats at reputation, because, I've been around in New York when players get injured and they cheer because they're awful players at that time of their lives. Like literally cheer, and these guys get injured, and it's like, that's not what we want in Oklahoma City. And I know there's the majority of us that stand up for the team and will voice it and say, hey, no more. But it's still out there, and it's just shocking that we have to deal with other podcasts and Oklahoma City Thunder media people, and even the Daily Oklahoman sometimes is trashing our team, and people saying, "Oh, it's just journalism." Well, that's bullshit. Because if you're a Democrat,
how is it journalism to cheer, lead people in a cheer?
Well, but here's the thing, though, and this is what's so mind-boggling. If you're a Democrat, right, and you're a writer, okay,
right,
everything that comes out of you is anti, Republican, right, and it's vice versa, right, and it's like, wait a second, here we are, and this is your team, okay? This is your party, right?
Yeah.
And they're sitting there, standing above, because they're podcasters, right? And all these fans are below them, and they're like, let's pee on them, just because it's fun. We're at this concert, and Travis pulls out his dick and starts peeing on everybody. And I'm just saying, this is exactly what's going on in Oklahoma City with our podcast. And it's mind-boggling because, so badly we want to be like, no. This is not who we are, right? We're not that dude peeing off in the crowd. That's some dude that jumped up on the stage. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's so embarrassing when I meet somebody even here in Maryland that's like, oh yeah, Oklahoma City fans are literally the dumbest fans I have ever met in my life. They're so incredibly stupid, it's ridiculous. And that's here in Maryland, where basketball isn't the main sport. And it's shit. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like, I wear Oklahoma City Thunder t-shirts and people laugh. Why? Because our fan base are uneducated and nobody understands how to root for a winning team or how to root for your team. And it's just like, here we are, woohoo, KD, you know, he's a cupcake. You know, like, listen, man, if we didn't make fun of KD after he left, he would have never said anything negative about us in the media. He would have never done anything else like that. And when he was looking for another team, he would have been like, you know what? Oklahoma City was not that bad of a place. But we fucking trashed his name as fans, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember you and I talking about it, and you're like, I really hope that KD does well, you know, playing for Golden State and wins a couple championships. I'm like, fuck you, man. And you're like, dude, he's Oklahoma City boy. Like, he is our nephew, our friend, we grew up watching him. I hope he wins them. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. I can't believe you're saying that. But when he won one, I was happy for him. You know, I was ecstatic for him. It just sucked it wasn't with Oklahoma City. You know, and I wish the same thing for Russ. I wish he can figure out a way to win one as well. It changes your life. And I don't know, man, like, I get it. We're going to have some stupid fans, just like Cleveland has stupid fans. But the majority of us are intelligent enough to recognize that we cannot root for these guys to get injured. We cannot root for these guys not to make the playoffs every year, because that's how your star player leaves. And then you're left with a bunch of 20-something-year-olds, you know, under 22-year-olds that are learning the game. And that's, at that point, a true fucking tank. And that's not what we want, you know? Like, we don't want Shea to be like, hey, guys, I can't handle losing another year, which he has already said, you know, in the media, saying that he doesn't want to lose another year, right? And then us to come out and lose another year, that's going to be devastating for Shea. And at that point, it's going to be hard to convince any player that's disgruntled to come back and play. We've seen it with Paul George happen. It actually benefited us, you know? So, like, you know? Like, listen, man, it might seem basic, but it's a lot more complicated when you're dealing about the type of guys that we draft. These guys, they don't like losing. They got passion. They got desire to win. And Shea's got a lot of fucking money on getting him out there and putting him in, you know, an all-NBA team.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
get to the playoffs.
Shit ton of money.
You got to earn that. And, dude, I know what you're talking about. And when you look back and you realize all these minions of these other podcasts are drinking the golden shower and spitting it into each other's mouths, and then, like, just, like, continually, like, getting mad at people when they don't want to get peed on for not, like, following, like, their lemming mindset right off the cliff. And it's just like, dude, I'm sorry, but I honestly don't care what the subject is.
Dude,
I don't want to get peed on by anybody.
Listen, everybody that watches this next draft, okay, 2023 draft, it is a great draft, okay? I'm not trashing the draft at all. It's a good draft, okay? Mm-hmm. But if I had the number one pick and you told me I had the number one pick in either 2023 or 2024 and gave me the option, without thinking, I'm picking 2024. And I know that's going to be like, people are like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But I'm telling you guys, look at the talent in 2024. Take some time and look at it. And this is going to be an epic year for drafting purposes. And we have to take a step back and recognize why Sam Presti traded all of our draft assets minus our pick for next year. Okay? Why does he do that? Well, he does that if he doesn't have a lot of faith in the late, you know, the mid 16 or mid whatever 14 through, you know, 29. Like, he doesn't have a lot of faith in those, you know? Like,
or even
look at who he just went out and got.
12, right?
Yeah,
you know?
but exactly. But look at who we just got. We got somebody that's a mastermind in drafting late, okay? Yeah. So if this next year's a weak draft class in the mid round, this guy is going to find, you know, the player that we need. Philly. And then in the second round, we capitalize on our second round picks. Well, it could be a lighter year in the second round, but we could trade whatever. It doesn't matter. The whole point is that 2024 is the year that we want our picks. And if Sam Presti's looking at it saying, you know, like, look at Houston. I mean, let's just say best case scenario, we end up with the number 5th pick in 2024 from Houston, okay? And we get Utah sucks, right? And they end up at like number 11, right? We get 11 and 5 in one of the strongest drafts I've seen in a long time. You know, like, to me, that's the money's at. Now we can try to go and say no, tank for this year. But listen, if we don't get that number 1 pick, then it's almost rough. Like, okay, we've got a bunch of Tristan Thompsons next. You know, like good players, right? Championship caliber players, but guys that are role models, overpaid role players. Yeah, you know, that's what they'll become. Yeah. And that's why I say stay away from this draft, because that number 1 pick is sexy. Yeah. Right? He looks good. Yeah. But what? We got 17% or 12% chance to get it if we're even in that top 4, you know, worst 4 teams. And then we look at this team and, like, this is going to be an epic year for tanking, guys. This is an epic year for tanking. And then we're going to be looking at guys like Shea, be like, hey, we just tanked this whole year to get this, hopefully get this number 1 pick right here. Right? We don't get that number 1 pick, and then how's Shea going to feel? Yeah. Right? Like, again, you can't burn your bridges to go to the number 1 pick. And I understand people saying, well, Shea, we could trade Shea. Listen, and I understand that people have said that we offered Shea for that number 1 pick, right? Right. And for Detroit, okay? That was Sam Presti testing the fucking waters, man. There's no way. There's no way that we trade Shea. Yeah. You know, like, it's just not this point of his career. Like, we have an opportunity to make this a playoff team, and then Shea becomes valuable. Yeah. You know, like, Shea right now is valuable. Like, we probably could get 3 first round, 2 first round for him right now. Right? Yeah. But we go to the playoffs, and he averages 27, 28 points a game and, you know, looks like one of the best shooting guards in the league. Yeah. All of a sudden, he's worth what Donovan Mitchell's worth. Yeah. And that's King's ransom. And why do we sell early on Shea? It doesn't make sense when we can rejuvenate our draft in one fucking sweep. And especially when we have so many more years until we need to even think about that. Yeah. So, you know, like, let Shea play. Get to his fucking prime, and then look in the East and say, Shea, where you want to go in the East? You know? Like, okay, this team has 7 draft picks right here that we desire, you know, a few, you know, second round picks, but we desire those picks. Like, here we go. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great plan B.
So why are we going to tank and get a disgruntled player, and then we only get a couple draft picks out of it? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. That's why I keep going back and forth on, like, Sam Presti's way more intelligent than these other podcasts and these other Daily Oklahoman writers are giving him credit for. You know, he knows the value in holding on to somebody like Paul George. Like, he went out and got Paul George and paid, like, Serge Ibaka essentially for him. Yeah. Right? I mean, he literally traded what the Magic traded for us for Serge Ibaka, and we traded that to Pacers. Yeah. And we got Paul George, and then we turned Paul George into the fucking King ransom. And that's going to be the things that people are going to talk about down in the future of this team. You know, like what the Oklahoma City Thunder got for Paul George. Because it's not going to be like 1 or 2 good players. It's going to be this long list of players and drafts that were traded out and players. And, dude, it's going to be insane. And it's going to be something that we see that it's going to be the Paul George effect for the next, like, I don't know, 12 years. You know, like in baseball, where's that Bellinari day where that one player for the Mets that signed that contract, and every day until 2035 he receives like $1.8 million or something like that from the Mets. Yeah. Well, that's the same type of scenario we're talking about. That Sam Presti is going to be cashing in on these draft picks and trading them out for later draft picks. And next thing you know is someone's going to say, you know what? And it's going to be in 2030. And someone's going to say, you know what? I think we just saw the last draft pick that Sam Presti traded for Paul George. Yeah. And people would be like, holy cow, that took 10 years. to exchange. And that's the type of thing that changes an organization. So when you say that Sam won't do that with Shea when this team is going to be on a crunch, we have all these guys about to get paid, right? And he's like, Shea or Chet and Giddy.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got to make those tough decisions.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to make those decisions. When you make those decisions, before the player gets disgruntled, you go out and trade and you get 7 draft picks or whatever you want for him. You know, and next 10 years it takes you to cash in on those. And then it's like, oh, damn. Like, and then you look back at the masterpiece of what those 10 years and what you got in return. And it's like, what the fuck? You know? Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? Like, for instance, last year, dude, it's insane. I know we're coming into an end on this podcast, but that's why we have to step back, and just let Sam be Sam, and trust in the process of what Sam is trying to do with this team. And listen, this is not what Sam Presti wanted, but you're silly if you don't think Sam Presti didn't have a backup plan already in store for this situation that was going to could happen with Chet.
Yeah.
Because he did. He already had everything set up. He already has, that's why a lot of the trades haven't been done yet. That's why we're sitting on some players that some people thought we should cut. Like, you don't know what's going to happen between the 100 days.
Yeah.
And this is one of the good examples. Like, we're down to 40 or 50 days until this 100 days is up?
Something like that, yeah.
And now we're looking at, okay, we just lost a major defender here. So let's take a look here.
Yeah.
And that's why I give Sam time, because there is a trade. There is something that in the long run will bring us in somebody like Isaiah Roby that will come and lead the team on that floor for the entire year, and then is up for a contract. And we helped them out. They helped us out, fill the hole. So there is something there. Or it's us filling that hole with Poku and Baisley and JRE and J Will and JDub and any other rookie, Aaron Wiggins. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, this is what we are built for. This team being as deep as we are, we're built to fill in the blanks. We're built to cover down guys that aren't playing well. This isn't old school NBA where you have 6 players that are playing, 7 players that are playing, and when your starter's not shooting well, he's just out of the game. Yeah. He's still playing in there, but you can't do anything about it, because guess what? This team, you're not playing well, there's 4 other shooting guards, there's 4 other centers, there's 4 other power forwards that are fucking hungry, that want that ball in their hands.
Yeah.
And that's what's so powerful about this team, and that's why we just got to sit back and we got to admire what is about to happen, because now, because we're Oklahoma fans, everybody's against us, man. Everybody thinks that we're going to be trash this year. Everybody's making fun of us as could be one of the worst teams in the NBA history. And I'm going to revel in the experience this year. I'm going to revel in the whole idea that this team, right, is going to steal the hearts of the fans in Oklahoma and across everywhere we play. Because every time we played another team, man, I stopped watching the Oklahoma announcers last year. You know why?
Yeah.
Because every time we played another team, all they talked about was how fun our team was to watch.
Yeah.
Right? How fun it was. Like, how much passion these guys play with, how much desire these guys play with, how much balls these guys play with. It was Azubuike, I think that was for Golden State, that was like, man, these guys play with such like balls, man. They're out there just hustling. And it's, to me, that's what we got for this team. Is we got all heart, we've got all desire to win, and it's going to be one of those experiences for everybody around that's going to be enjoyable. And you know what? We might not get to 35 wins, right? But we're still going to give these motherfuckers a run for their money.
Yeah, dude. That's what we're looking forward to. Watching these guys get out, playing hard, and repping the city like we've become accustomed to. And that comes from the blue-collar, hard-working plays and players that make up this team and make it so we even feel like we can say we really believe we're 15 deep. And we're excited about the season. We're obviously bummed out, but we don't feel any need to, overthink this. Like, right now, we're all in on what we got, and we're going to be back on Monday, and we're pumped up about it, man. You got anything else?
Man, we're all in. I love it, dude. We're fucking all in. Like I want people to understand that. You're all fucking in with us. Because this team, right, you're listening to us. You're eating up this information like us, right? This team needs us. And we're going to be loud this year. We're going to be cheering. We've been talking about doing something like the round table where we get on and we do a podcast and we just talk to everybody that's able to come. And that way we're able to hear our voices together, because there's a lot of you guys that share this passion with us. And, we've already been talking to a bunch of them, and it sounds like it's going to end up working. So, again, we'll bring that back when it comes to it. But, man, I'm excited. And don't forget, guys, we do have YouTube videos now. We've only put 2 up now. But check those out, because I think they're kind of cool. We kind of, I don't know. We look the way we do, and we definitely own it. So we appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and we will see you on Monday.